Hey everybody, welcome back live at Drew's House Joppa Afternoon Drive. Hope you're all doing well. A spring show with the mayor of Newburyport, Sean Reardon. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. How you doing, Drew?
Things are good. Things are good. It's a we kind of do this. We like to reset the different seasons. I noticed with you. I always say I was like, let's see what the mayor's up to as the weather gets warmer.
That's
right. What's going on? How you been?
Yeah, no, I'm great. This is an incredibly busy time of year. Newburyport, comes alive so much more when the spring weather hits. So you got outdoor dining. You've got it's budget season. We're trying to build this recreation and youth services center on Low Street. So that vote's coming up in a week. So never shortage of things going on. But this is a particularly busy time of year. Plus, there's a lot of events this time of year. I feel like I'm either at the schools or I'm at some sort of event every night. So it just spring's very busy in Newburyport.
With that, thank you for making some time for us again. We always appreciate it. Very good. So that is I guess the vote would be the big thing. The budget's another big thing. They're all big things.
They're all big things. Yep.
But what's taking up the most of your time right now?
No, it's this recreation and youth center vote. So this is a project we've worked on since prior I took office, and then certainly since day one when I took office, we've been working on this. Right. Mm-hmm. So we purchased the land across the street from the middle school. Used to be an old emergency management building. We purchased that for $220,000, and then since then, that was back in 2022. We've been kind of working through this process of designing this building, and because we had some funds left over from when we sold the Kelly School, we were able to get all the way to the end of designing this building, getting to construction document phase, and then actually going out to bid, and not just on an estimate. Like the numbers that we got back are the actual numbers it's going to take to build this recreation center. So that's not typical in a lot of city projects. Usually you go out first and then you design it. But because we got to finish the design, we've got some solid numbers, and then it was just deciding how we're going to pay for it. So we decided to go this debt exclusion route. At first, I was very hesitant to do that, but I love that we're doing it now because I think for residents who are going to go out and cast a vote, either right now, because we have early voting going on at the Senior Center this week, or next Tuesday, May 13th, you really get to look at how this is going to impact you on your taxes each year, right? Debt exclusions are extra tax that we can tax for special projects. We've only done a handful or a few debt exclusions in the past 40 years. This building that we're in right now, the Senior Center, Community Center, was one of them. President Hand Elementary School was one of them. The repairs down at the Knock Middle School, and then 25 years ago, we did a debt exclusion for the high school that's falling off this year. So because that debt's falling off this year, I just thought this was a good time to do this. And like I said, we've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this, and again, over 50 public meetings, and now we just need to know if we're going to move forward or not. And I saw what happened to our Council of Aging in our senior community once we built this wonderful facility back in 2012. And I think the thought at the time was we've always, eventually we're going to find a permanent home for our recreation and youth services, and that's what we're trying to do. Yeah,
for people who don't know, this studio is attached to that building, so we're all right here. As I imagine this, like so many things you deal with, nobody is really necessarily against a recreational building, but it comes down to the money and what we do with the money.
Yeah, right? And I think the money's been a huge concern from the get-go, and so we've really tried to be really thoughtful in that as we put together this design. I mean, we originally came out with 3 concepts, and we kind of landed on the one in the middle that could be built at a price that we could live with, but then also provide the services that we needed for the department, right? Does it meet the needs of the department, and does it meet the needs of the community? So that's kind of where we landed. Yep. Unfortunately, the times that we live in, things are expensive to build, right? They get more and more expensive. We have some streets, just to repave streets and do sidewalks in the city, that are close to $1 million. So to build a recreation center, the bid came in at $7.1 million. We're asking voters for a little bit more than that, because we're actually going to make that area on Low Street safe, so a pedestrian crossing from the school to the recreation center. We're also moving, currently right now, the Parks Division in our town is using that facility, so we're going to move them down with the rest of DPS down at Berry Way. So that's basically where we're at. So we want to get the building, we want to get the programs up and ready. I mean, again, this is a department that generates about close to $800,000 in revenue a year, right? So it's a good investment for the city as well. And I think this adult recreation piece is just an untapped resource here in Newburyport. I don't think we do enough around adult rec. I think it's a huge opportunity. And so that's why, again, this will certainly have a kids and youth focus down there, but there's also going to be opportunities opportunities for everyone to use that building, whether it be adult basketball, pickleball, volleyball.
I was going to say, this sounds like pickleball.
Pickleball, you can't escape it. So, and again, we're not trying to build something new. We're actually just trying to replace what we lost at the Brown School when the Brown School heating went out in October 2021. We were already doing these things there, but there were limits to what we could do there, right? We were using the first floor of a broken down school and a gym.
Yep.
Now we've moved forward with this affordable housing project, which I'm really proud about, at the Brown School. So now that that's all handled and finished, and we're moving forward with that very important project, now it's time to finish this rec center.
Yeah, you mentioned the outside dining there. We're about to kick into that gear here. Actually, I just drove down before the show here. I was downtown, and you guys got people are working like crazy down there. There's all sorts of stuff going on. You get Newburyport workers. I don't know. It just seemed like a lot.
And so that's probably what it was. Yeah, they were supposed to get that out there this week, and we had a rainy day yesterday. It's kind of sprinkling out there today, but they hope to get that up and running as soon as possible.
Big project. Is that so? What as far as closing the streets, is that all they're working on there?
Yeah, so I mean, there's
narrowing.
Yeah, there's some street work going on, but also when we set up our outdoor dining parklets, the DPS does that. So that's actually the city. We bought those parklets during COVID, and so we own them. We set them up.
Gotcha.
But that's just a process to do that. So we were hoping to get them up in the first week in May here. So we're going to just probably squeeze it in.
I'm sure you laugh when you see I know the North End in Boston has the fights over outdoor dining, not enough space, but it's such a great thing. The restaurants want this, the residents don't want this. It seems to be, from my perspective, it seems everybody loves the outdoor dining of Newburyport. Has that been a big win for the city?
I think so. Yeah, no, I think it's been a huge win. And it's funny, this kind of came up recently where, there was a kind of a big outcry to the city council to keep outdoor dining. They weren't thinking about losing it, but what I said to the city council many weeks ago is that, we bought these parklets with a grant back in 2020. It's been incredibly popular and successful. But I do think they have to think of how does this program sustain itself and keep progressing in the future, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think this is something that the city council has to decide, but they have to decide what the future of that looks like. They actually just voted on a slight increase in the cost to restaurants to do this, which I think is good. But at the end of the day, we only have so many parklets, and we only, they're not generating. We're pretty much breaking even right now. But if we ever had to reinvest into the program again, then we would need some money to do that.
What exactly is a parklet? Just to be clear.
So the parklet, it's almost like a deck for a parking space, right? So, that's why DPS, we bought them, the city, the DPS houses them all year down at Perry Way, and then they assemble all of them, right? And so, we're 5 years in now, so, there's definitely going to be some sort of cost to that. So it's DPS cost, it's cost of materials. Like I said, you want them to be of high quality as well, so all those things kind of go into it.
And the restaurant pays on almost like you're paying rent, like a monthly basis?
Yep, it's almost like they're leasing it for the season.
Yep.
This year, the dining season will be a little bit shorter because we are going to pave State Street, which is long overdue. So we're going to start first week in May here, and then we'll have outdoor dining until about mid-September.
Okay.
And then hopefully we'll have that all paved by Halloween.
That seems like a sneaky big project in its own right, paving State Street, huh?
It is, and we're doing some sidewalk work there too, which is difficult, right? Because once you get to this time of year, you're just busy pretty much all the time, especially when the weather's nice. So just being thoughtful about when you can do that, and making sure everyone has a heads up of how that work's going to take place.
Yeah, all about planning accordingly, right? And letting people know.
And communication's a big piece. As long as you can tell people what you're doing, why you're doing it, and give them enough advance notice. I mean, that's the challenge, is just making sure you got good communication with the public.
I mean, because it is one of the most sought after places to come. I mean, you have people, not only just this state, but you have people from all of New England that come to Newburyport, especially, all times of years, but especially when the weather gets nice and the waterfront and all that. So, I know you take a lot of pride in that. I know, making it as good as it can be.
That's right. No, we take pride in that. And like I said, it's just, it's great being a destination. Our downtown small businesses thrive on it, right? So, it's up to us as a city to keep, downtown looking great, and just looking for ways to maximize the revenue we can get down there.
I know, again, Mayor Sean Reardon joining us here. Nice enough to join us on another busy week for him. I guess they're all busy, but nice enough to join us here live at Drew's house. I was talking with some people, friends of mine, so, we're mid to late 30s, coming into our 40s here, a lot of my group. People that are from here, you lived here for a while,
sure,
and have actually moved out of Newburyport, and noticed it's like everywhere, right? It's the cost of housing, or even if you're just renting a place, it's crazy to live anywhere right now. Right. It seems anywhere, especially on the North Shore. How cognizant are you and your administration of looking at is there any way we can make Newburyport more affordable? I know it's an impossible task, but
yeah, no, it's one of the biggest things that we have on our plate right now, and I think it's something that we've really have dived into the last couple years, for sure. And you can kind of see that with some of the projects we're trying to get started around the city. I think it did start with that Brown School, trying to get some deeply affordable housing there. Now we're really focusing on senior housing, so it'll be senior housing but deeply affordable, right? So we're going to get 29 units for people who make 30% of the average median income or 60% of the average median income, right? There'll be a certain number of units for that. Around the city, yeah, you're right. I mean, I look at so I bought my house 10 years ago, just 2 days ago, and my house is assessed at double what I bought it just 10 years ago, which is crazy because I haven't done anything to my house. I don't have time to do it. But that's where the market's at right now, and I think that's a tough thing for some people to get.
Your wife just texted me. There's a few things you need to.
Yeah, right. My list gets longer, but it's a tough thing for people to wrap their head around. The market is actually driving this, and that's why our assessments here in Newburyport have gone up every year pretty consistently since 2012, and that's driven by the real estate market, right? Because even though we don't have the inventory out there that's maybe for sale, but those houses that are for sale are usually selling for either over asking price or they're getting sold before they really even technically get on the market. So how do you balance that, especially when the rest of the state is struggling with the same thing, right? We're just a lack of housing, which is why I think the Healy Driscoll administration has really put housing at the top of their list, and I do think some of the things that they're doing, it should be helping. MBTA communities has been controversial, not so much here in Newburyport. We have a 40R district down by our train station that we were able to just build off of. Minco built like 2 buildings a few years ago that are apartments that have done very well, have been fully occupied. They want to build a 3rd building by Haley, so that possibly could start this year, around 100 units. So again, to me, it's hard to affect the pricing of housing right now, but what I want to give is people more options, right? And I do think some of these apartments that are coming in are options for people. We have an abandoned Kmart building that they're going to try to build a friendly 40B development, which means there'll be an affordability component to that. So they want to build 212 units. 25% of those will be affordable at 80% AMI, which isn't incredibly affordable. I say affordable now,
relatively
speaking,
right?
For Massachusetts, affordable. But again, that will give people options, and it's not just people, younger people who would like to stay here who might not be able to buy a house, but maybe renting is something that they'd like to do because they want to be in this community. For seniors who feel stuck in their homes, maybe they've lived here for 40 years, they bought it for $100,000 and now it's worth $1 million. They don't want to sell because they don't have any place to go. But if we do have some of these options for them to downsize and stay in the city, maybe that gives them options. So we're not done. We're continually trying to look for places to make an impact. Newburyport's pretty built out as well, so it's not like we've got this housing complex that is going to come in anytime soon. But I do think these kind of strategic apartments that we can bring into the city, because so many apartments have been lost over the past 15 years, again, will give some people some options.
So you're legitimately trying to get creative with it. I mean, I know Mayor Wu I was talking with one day, and they have the same problem in Boston, right? People are spilling into the different outside towns of Boston because there's no more place to put people in Boston, and everything else that's there is so expensive, and it just kind of gets outgrown,
I also think back when I was growing up, and even probably when you were growing up, or even when my parents were growing up, it was there was such a focal point on buying a house. That was such a big deal. You were working towards buying a house. I do think that has shifted a little bit, and I think that's a good thing. I think people should have their minds open to other things, because right now those prices aren't going to go down anytime soon either, right? But how can we keep creating housing that the workforce can live in, that our seniors can live in and age in place, or how can we be okay with young people willing to stay and work in these communities and maybe buy a house someday. But again, I don't think I really think that mind shift of all right, I've got to buy a house, that's probably changed in this environment. It's tough, and that's tough for some because that's what they want to do.
I mean, you got kids in high school right now. I mean, I'm sure they're looking at it wait, how much do you need to buy a place? That seems, I'm not even in the real world yet, and that seems like it's unobtainable,
Right, and it goes along with cost for college. I mean, I've got 3 kids. I've got to consider how they're going to get to college, and just to see how that's skyrocketed over the past 30 years. There's got to be a breaking point at some point. But in the meantime, in my seat, I mean, that's something I struggle with every day. Is how do we better help support our residents, and how do we get Newburyport maybe not necessarily more affordable, but it's certainly like as we approach budget season, how do we make sure we're using every dollar, efficiently and effectively, and making that, again, when I talk about communication, now making that clear to residents is like, hey, this is the direction we're going, this is why, and this is why we think it's important.
And you want, I imagine, as mayor, right? You want all age groups here. You want a balance.
Absolutely.
It's never going to be perfect, but you want.
No, I mean that just brings value to your community when you have different voices and different people from different backgrounds, and I think we do have that in Newburyport. I think probably there'll be some old timers. I won't say it's not like the '70s when the artists were coming in at a good clip, but it has gotten expensive here really quick, and that's why I look at some of these houses and what they're going for, and the fact that people are able to buy them and come in. I mean, I never could. My wife and I are both from here, and like I said, we were just so fortunate that we got in. We got in when we did, and it was right when we were about to have kids, and we struggled that first 10 years, and we were very lucky to keep our house that first 10 years. And the fact that we were able to hang in there and do it, now you've got 10 years of equity in your house. We were able to get our next house because of that.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been a little bit better, but right now, it's very tough for people, especially people from here who want to come back and raise a family here.
Yeah, no doubt. Sean Reardon, the mayor of Newburyport, in the house here. I know the budget's coming up. It can be kind of a bore for some people, but in the Spark Notes version, what's the biggest thing you want to address here?
So this is a really tough budget year, and I think you're seeing this across the state as well. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of external factors that are working into budgets this year. Again, it's also tough because we are trying to be thoughtful about the dollars that we're spending, and we want to limit the impact to taxpayers. But we also want to keep providing the same great services we always do too. So what happened this year that makes it particularly difficult, and this is happening all around, is that after COVID, the health insurance field really worked with cities and towns by keeping either no increases or minimal increases to health insurance rates. And now we're seeing a market adjustment finally, a few years after. So this is the big first one, and our health insurance in the city went up just about 15%, 14.8%.
It's a big number.
Which is essentially dropping $2 million in the middle of your budget, right? So that's difficult to overcome. So we're actually having a budget forum tonight at the City Hall auditorium at 7:00. And this is before we actually submit the budget to City Council, but because of this debt exclusion vote, we wanted to give people a heads up about where we're landing. So we're going to talk about that a lot tonight. We still landed at around a 3.6% increase, but if you take out that health insurance, it's about a 1% increase.
Yeah.
So that's kind of going to be the narrative this year, and that's still going to be a tough pill to swallow for some people. We really tried to be thoughtful about looking at each department. I mean, there's between the schools and the city. Again, the schools are almost 60% of our budget, right? So that's a lot. And then for the rest of us, I think all told, there's 16 full-time positions that we're not filling this year. So not necessarily people, but these were open positions that we've decided to not fill, take off the books, really to help us get to a manageable number in the budget this year.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody's doing that, it seems like, right?
Yeah, and I think honestly, we're in a better position than others. But we're all struggling in our own ways. So, like I said, it's still a little bit of an increase. It wasn't as it wasn't as where I wanted it to end up, but I do think I'm happy where we landed, and then now we'll have to work through that process with the city council and see where they land.
Were you like a big accounting guy back in the day in college?
No. I am not.
Did you underestimate how much of the mayoral position was number crunching? And
no. I'm like that old Saturday Night Live skit with Chevy Chase's Gerald Ford. In the debate, he's saying, I didn't know math was going to be.
They told me there'd be no math involved.
There'd be no math. Yeah. But we've got an incredible finance director, Ethan Manning, who's actually about to move jobs and become the finance director down at the schools. So he's going to stay in Newburyport, which is great. But we've got a great finance department, and I said I have wonderful department heads that have really been working hard. Really not a whole lot of pushback from them this year. They knew what kind of budget we were talking about. We knew the city council would have their own ideas about the budget this year as well. So we're going to be prepared for all of that. And like I said, I like where we landed. I think we put together a thoughtful budget. It still moves the city forward. We're still doing that great streets and sidewalk work across the city. like I said, it's just a more of a leaner, meaner budget this year.
Okay. Well, let's end with the kids a little bit, because you mentioned the schools, and that's always kind of a fun place to go. The high school sports teams always kind of put on a show here in Newburyport. I know you keep tabs on all them. Do you have a good? What was the last season for you? Did you have a team that you in particular liked watching out there when you got to go catch a game or two?
Well, I mean, the winter sports, I watch all of them. So obviously I'm a basketball guy, so I get to, and my dad and I called most of the, not most, but a lot of the home games for the girls and boys basketball teams. Hockey had a good run this year as well. I know, even sports I don't get to go to, like wrestling or skiing, did well this year too. Indoor track always is good, but the spring is fun because, right now Newburyport, I would say in Division III, we're up there in most sports. I mean, we're competitive. We could make a Final Four of any state tournament, I think, any given year. So I haven't gone to a ton of games yet. My daughter's on the varsity tennis team, so I have been catching some tennis matches, and they've won 2 state titles and made it to another final last year. So, I mean, they're always really competitive. But I'm hearing really good things about the boys and girls lacrosse team. I can't wait to go see them.
Cool.
Spring's a great time of year.
When you have an injury in your family,
I do. My middle daughter, Ruby, she's a freshman. She was going to be one of their speedsters this year for track, but she also plays club soccer and fractured her tibia. Yeah. So she's on the mend. She's on the DL. She's still helping out with track, and then hopefully we'll get her up and healed and ready for varsity soccer in the fall.
You were saying Ruby has a good positive attitude, though, which you like.
She's been great. She has been keeping her spirits up, which has kept our spirits up. So that's all that matters. But yeah, no, tough break, and like I said, no pun intended. But when you're a freshman, hopefully she sees that there are better things coming, and she can come back even stronger. So we'll see.
There's not a worse thing though for a parent, right? So,
oh my goodness, yeah. No, it happened right in front of us too, and just kind of a freak thing on a wet field, and hopefully she'll come back even stronger.
A good lesson though. I remember I had some buddies who had some pretty serious injuries in high school, and being able to turn that corner. The sooner you can kind of turn that corner and say, okay, well, what can I work on?
Right.
Whether it's a foot injury, maybe you lift more or whatever it is. Yeah. You kind of you take that positive approach. It's all about the mindset. You can kind of turn it into a good thing.
Sure. No, it's very easy to get down on yourself, but again, she's been great, and so that's really affected all of us too. So we've been able to stay up with her.
There you go. Awesome. And and I'm sure the friends at school are being extra good to her.
They're being great.
Awesome. Again, Mayor Sean Reardon joining us here. Final minute with him, and thank you to May Power producing the show today. As always, Sarah Hayden, the boss. Anything on your mind? Anything you'd like to? Anyone want to ask me? Anything you got?
I don't know. You playing any tennis?
I am. Yeah. I'm about to. I'm teaching a little bit. I'm doing some side lessons.
So that's cool.
So yeah, I got just starting this week actually.
Yeah, my wife's just picking up tennis, so I think that's going to be great for the whole family. So
there you go. It's my favorite game. I'm so biased, but it's like you can kind of play it forever. My grandmother played until she was like, let's see, she passed away when she was in her late 80s. So I think she was maybe like 87. She stopped going to tennis at age 86.
That's awesome.
And at that age, I think a lot of it was social. I think like maybe it wasn't all about the rallies, but more the people that she was going to see. But whatever, you know, as soon as when she stopped playing tennis, it was like it happened kind of quickly, and we lost her.
No.
I always remember that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, those types of things that you can do your whole life, and so it's nice that my wife's getting into it. So it's great. I think the whole family will play a lot more. I mean, I grew up with it. My dad was a big tennis player. He was the coach up at the high school. So. He was always into doing tennis camps and tennis tournaments for kids to get. I mean, we were kind of in that first like American wave, like with Agassi and Chang and that whole group, Jim Courier and that group. So I mean, we grew up just loving tennis, and that ebbs and flows a little bit, but it's nice. It seems to have definitely made a resurgent here in Newburyport.
When I first started doing this show here, there was no boys team, right?
Yeah,
does that ring a bell?
Yeah, they had a couple of years. My dad was last year. It was like 2010, I think.
Just like this random drop off.
And then all of a sudden, like they didn't have the numbers. And I do think like the Newburyport Tennis Club has resurrected that a little bit. We're putting in 3 new tennis courts right now down by the middle school where we had just put in 2, so we'll have 5 brand new courts there by the end of May. And I think it's nice seeing. I love when sports that I like come back and people are playing. And
I think COVID helped it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
I mean, when people were, that was one of those sports you could play and keep your social distancing. God, I don't even like saying that word, but But and I noticed people were kind of taking up tennis, and now like I remember when I was a kid, like the courts in my town of Danvers were not always rarely packed.
Right.
Now I pretty much drive by, and they're crowded all the time.
Yeah, no, I make the loop. Like if I'm playing with my daughter, who it's great now. My daughter's a junior and playing on varsity tennis, so she's at the age that you can actually like play with her.
Yeah.
So it's fun. But like no, we make the trip, and sometimes we have to make two loops around the city before we can find a court.
Yeah.
To sit to play on. So
you don't play the "You Know Who I Am" card there?
Never.
Never.
No.
Hey, mutual friend of ours, Alex Anthony, had an underground show at the Grog the other day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Must have been nice to. Did you like hearing that there's music back at the venue like that?
I love that. Yeah, no, it's great. I know Alex doesn't live in town anymore, but I know he tries to sneak back whenever he can. And I know the Grog's special for him because he worked there for so long too. So that's awesome.
People who before 10 years ago that maybe have gone, maybe they don't even live in Massachusetts anymore. That are they're like, wait, the Grog isn't doing music right now, and it's like they just can't get their head around it. So,
that was the place, man, for a long time.
So it was a little throwback there the other day, which was nice. But always enjoy the time. Mayor Sean Reardon here. A pleasure as always. Tell your daughter to get well and plenty of good high school years ahead of her. And I wish the family all the best. Thanks for coming in, man.
All right, thanks, Drew.
All right, Sean Reardon, live at Drew's House, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Thank you to Maeve, Sarah Hayden, our small but mighty team here in Newburyport. You know the drill. We love you. Thanks. See you soon.